The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mike, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. It's your chance to have your say. We're open line today, so call 66 13 68, text or WhatsApp. Same number, 166 177. Email studio@manxradio.com. Well, apparently local authorities in the south of the island would have been willing to stump up to keep buses going to Craignish and the Sound, but that's it. Deal I have decided, no longer running. You won't be able to get a bus to Craignish and the Sound anymore. Big deal or no deal? What do you think? Text, email, call and WhatsApp and anything else that's on your mind. Let's go to the lines now. And Vivian's first with us today. Hi, Vivian.
Hi, Randy. I phoned Ramsey Group Practice last week. What day we'll be last Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I wanted to speak to a doctor, just on a simple matter. And I was told I would get a phone call the next day from England, from a doctor in England.
England?
Yes.
How come? How come it is? Does that?
I don't know.
Has that happened before?
Not to me. I know somebody else it's happened to once. But that's what it was. He did ring me an hour late, and he was very nice. I'm not complaining about that. But what he told me was what I'd already done. So that was a waste of time.
Well, how weird. And you say that's happened to somebody that you know as well?
I know it's happened to one other person, yes. But I want to know what's going on and what has happened to our GPs that we are paying a large sum of money for.
Well, okay. All right. Well, let's put that out there and see what happens, Vivian. Thank
you very much indeed, Andy.
Thanks
Bye.
for calling today. Text, email. Have you heard of that before? That's Vivian calling Ramsey GP and getting a call back from England. David's with us now. Hi, David.
Hi, Randy. Just regarding the news again coming out from the DOI, really, regarding this report, the Altair report. I don't know whether you've read it. It's about 50, 60 pages long. This is regarding where the government have been consulting or non-consulting with some of the local authorities on the future of housing on the island. That's public sector housing. And where do we go? So and it's a private thought that I've got as an individual political member for Onken is, why are we wanting to reinvent the wheel when we have local authorities that do housing already and sheltered units? And why can't the government just hive them out to the nearest local authority and we can operate them? Especially, it doesn't cost them anything for extra staff.
I think the public are going to be asking, David, as you say, this has cost us the best part of £80,000, this report, and they want a new body to develop feasible social and affordable housing solutions for the Isle of Man. Well, haven't we got those already? Haven't we got solutions, social and affordable housing solutions? And why does it need somebody? Does it need somebody from outside to do it?
It doesn't really, but because they like to. I'm sorry about the government, but they like to do these things to get a report done from somewhere else, and then get somebody else to report on it, and then they're supposed to have consultations. I would reckon, from my investigation in it, there's a lot of housing authorities there are disappointed with the report. Some of it's not factual. It also mentions too, and I think I've mentioned to you or to the people of Onken too, there's a number of units in Onken which is run by a charity. It's called the Ballacurn Housing Trust.
Yeah, so that's over 30 properties, isn't it?
Yeah, virtually empty. And we've accommodated someone into our sheltered housing stock. That's public knowledge anyway, so there's no secret there.
So what's the issue then with the Ballacurn House Trust? How come they're not filling them or maintaining the properties?
I don't know, and I would think under the trust to be a charity, which that one particularly is a charity there, the aims and obligations that were done donkeys years ago was to provide housing for the communities. Now, who else provides housing for the communities is government itself, which I think has a direct influence, and then local authorities, which do that as part of their job. That's part of the jobs that local authorities do. We got housing officers, we got maintenance staff, we got contractors that come in and do work. We already invented the wheel. So do we need extra spokes in the wheel?
So I mean, and again, the public are kind of right to ask, David, is it, I mean, forgive me for saying this, is it that the government doesn't trust local authorities?
I think it's going to happen in another month. I can tell you for a fact that the Municipal Association, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm an elected member now, I'm in for another 4 years. My goal in life is to strengthen up the Municipal Association, not just me, but other local authority members around the island there when they're elected this coming Thursday. And I hope people go out and vote for members who are going to have another look at their particular areas and do something, get involved in the areas. That's what local authorities do.
And what's the Municipal Association? What does it do?
The Municipal Association is a number of local authorities that meet on a regular occurrence there and discuss issues from, I mean, I'm going to say it anyway, even dog poo down to bigger issues to do with housing stock, what we need, what we want from government to strengthen us. And this local government bill that's coming forward, which is not fit for purpose for the local authorities and is draconian to some local authorities, forcing local authorities to do something they may not wish to do. Now, that's wrong in a democracy in the Isle of Man. We're not a bully state, are we? Although you would think so sometimes at the minute from some of the issues that come out from central government. But that's going to be challenged. That's going to go to the MLCs, if it's not already. Reports have come in from 21 local authorities, have written reports to the Legislative Council and said to them, you're the revising chamber of this government. We want you to look at this bill coming forward and the clauses that are in it and do something about the clauses which are not fit for purpose for the community. Okay,
all right. Appreciate it, David. Thanks for calling today.
All right.
Good to hear from you.
Sounds long, but there's a lot in it, and people should get involved in it. And the documents should be online. People need to read them if they want to get involved. And hopefully all the local authorities will, when we get a new municipal in, as the year comes to May, and we can be a force to be reckoned with. That's what I see in the future.
Okay.
See you, boy.
Thanks. For good to hear from you. It's 14 minutes past 12. Yeah, this coming Thursday, the 24th, it is local election day. Not everywhere, just where there are contests. And, of course, from 6 o'clock that evening, we'll have reporters out and about at the relevant counts, staying there until there is a result. It's not for me to tell you how to vote or what to do. However, it will be good if the turnout was up. So if you can vote, then I urge you to vote. Any thoughts on it? And this housing report that's cost £80,000. The Infrastructure Minister made a statement in Tynwald about progress on improving the affordability and availability of housing on the Isle of Man. Michelle Haywood clarified the government's position on housing following this publication of the report undertaken by Altair Limited. Last year, £79,000 it cost. And it recommends the setting up of a new not-for-profit housing association to take on the landlord functions currently managed by the Department of Infrastructure. Dr. Haywood explains.
The department commissioned Altair to go out and look at what that might look like and what that structure might be. So Altair have done a piece of work around setting up a company to run as a housing association, establishing a board of directors. Initially, staff from DOI would be seconded across to the company, and then we'd have to look at transferring housing stock across to that company over a period of time because there's a considerable amount of housing to convey to the new company. And the model that Altair have looked at is an arm's length company, basically, which would be government-owned, run on not-for-profit, but with the view of improving the amount of housing that was available.
I know from the report it said from as early as the end of the month is when this board could be in operation. Could that happen realistically?
The report was actually received the back end of last year, and so I think that timing was set for if the report had been approved and if funding had been approved last year. So there have been some challenges around that. It's not going to happen by the end of this month.
How would setting this body up bring about affordable housing?
The belief is that if you have a housing association and it owns all the stock, that it would then be able to take out loans, so effectively like a mortgage, against the housing stock that it owned in order to open up funding to build more housing with. And so that was one of the attractive propositions for setting up a housing association. The Altair report makes it quite clear that it will be at least 3 years before that funding stream was able to be opened. And so that's one of the challenges that I've had to consider. I know there's been some nervousness from local authorities about whether this was going to be their housing taken off them or anything like that. They've also received a letter telling them that the Altair report has been published, and so that I'm looking forward to any comments that come from them as well.
Well, you heard an elected representative talking about it. If this housing association comes to pass, if this not-for-profit, with a board of directors, of course, who we presume will be remunerated for being on the board of directors, and if they're taking all the responsibilities away from DOI, what happens to all the people in DOI currently looking after DOI housing? Do they get made redundant? Do they go to other roles? Will there be a loss of headcount in DOI because of this? You heard Michelle Haywood say some will be seconded across to this entity in the future, this housing association. I guess the question is, will it be better housing? Well, the whole thing, you heard what she said. Basically, it's to use the housing stock to raise some money to build more housing. Well, have you got any thoughts on this? Isn't this something that government used to do? Hasn't done recently, but something that government used to do. Any thoughts on it? Text, email, call, WhatsApp. Julian's with us. Hello, Julian.
Hi, Andy. How you doing?
Very well today, thanks.
Good. Just listening to David before. He used a word in relation to government, bullying, which seems to be used quite a lot on a lot of the comments going around on social media regarding certain things going on. Couple of items I'm just interested. You mentioned the 28 bus service to Cregneash and the Sound has definitely been cancelled. And the local commissioners are saying that the Department of Infrastructure refused to engage meaningfully in any discussions. Why is that? And also, has the Tourist Board made any statements on why one of the most important destinations on the island will be unreachable for a sizable proportion of tourists, you know, the ones that are dropped off at the bus station or the train station? Yeah. And what's going to happen to the Cregneash and Sound cafes in the future?
Well, we've heard nothing from Visit Isle of Man as to what the impact's going to be, but it's a fairly fundamental break in communications to snap that bus route off. And as you say, it's really not, unless you're serious about walking, walking from Port Erin or Port St Mary from the railway station there, it's a long way up and down to get to the Sound.
It absolutely is. And it seems to be in the name of losing money or not making a profit. What part of government is making a profit or not losing money at the moment, well, Andy?
The other thing is that they're running a bus service, and that's the whole thing. It's a bus service. It's not there to repay to shareholders. It's a public service.
Couldn't agree with you more. And on top of all this, RPM events closed down Derby Racing Circuit. Ostensibly because of government insistence on new requirements, including having a normal driving licence for road and personal insurance cover. So if young people can have a racing licence, so if they're too young to drive on a public road, how are young people going to learn how to race? That's not going to be possible, is it? It seems a strange requirement to have. And are these requirements going to be applied evenly to the other racing associations? And also, don't the TT teams, don't they do shakedowns up at Derby sometimes?
Well, all sorts of
Before
things.
and during.
Yeah, it's all sorts of things happen. I mean, I got a note in from a few people commented to me over the weekend about this cancellation now of RPM pulling out of it. So motorsport cancelled at Derby, they say, because government officials put restrictions on the competitors needing driving licences. It was great for youngsters to learn to drive, but now no longer. This is part of the bureaucratic rot setting in. We're going downhill fast, says that correspondent.
I also understand that DOI own the circuit, so that's kind of interesting. And also there was some mention about them wanting to put a new airport up there or whatever it was, so I don't know if that has any bearing. And then thirdly and finally, we've got this 20-mile-per-hour rollout occurring. Just been looking at the government maps around the island. Douglas, Onken and Port Erin resemble a spider's web. So how's that going to affect, say, the number of elderly or disabled being able to be visited by social care or hospice at home or food delivery companies like Wiltshire Farm Foods or Tesco's?
Well, nobody knows. You see, nobody knows how this is going to affect, because it hasn't happened yet. I mean, when it does happen, it'll shake down, and if there are repercussions, obviously people will speak up. At the moment, it's something that they want to do, and that's that. What Michelle Haywood did say, though, is that that 20 mile per hour speed limit is not going to be absolutely no plans for an all island speed limit, says the Minister for DOI.
No plans. Does that is the same as never?
Well,
I'm not sure about that.
Well, that's a choice of words, isn't it?
But if we don't know, I tell you who does know, and that's Wales. And all these things, they were talking about people with clean driving licenses all their life getting fines. They were talking about fuel consumption problems. They were talking about crazy queuing, increase in people having to get their diesel particulate filters serviced, more problems with impatient driving and tourism. They reckon the knock-on effect just in that short period of time for the Welsh Tourist Board was 4 billion down because people couldn't be bothered to go there and drive across the Welsh valleys at 20 miles an hour. Is this any good for the Isle of Man? All these things, events, I mean, the TT's in our blood, 1907 or 1904, arguably.
Well, you're a biker. You're a biker, Julian. What's it like biking at 20 miles per hour?
Well, it gets to the point. Especially on steep hills and stuff. Where you're queuing and you've got it. I mean, like see Old Hill or something, or any of these places. If you can't get going, and you think about how much longer it's going to take. I mean, let's suppose you left Douglas Head right now and went to Ramsey. If you think about all the zones that you're going to encounter through, because you've got to get across Douglas, so that's almost 3 miles for you to get just to the White Bridge. Then you've got Bulldrine, which is over half a mile. Then you've got a mile through Laxey, and then you've got, say you wanted to go to Parliament Street in Ramsey, there's another mile to get from Ballure Road through and all through. So you've got 5.5 miles of 20-mile-an-hour zones. And what about people who, say, spend their day driving around Douglas, taxi drivers or something? For every hour they're driving in a 20, they're going to be 10 miles behind what they would cover now.
Yeah.
So how's that going to work out over a whole day? There's plenty of people that have to do deliveries, post, and delivery drivers, like Hermes. I mean, are they going to be able to cover all of this? Are they going to have to get new buses extra to cover the fact that the bus timetable, because didn't you say before the bus timetable's being altered?
Yeah, it changed today, yeah.
So in other words, are these new buses required because the buses won't be able to cover the same distances over time and you can't get the same number of people across the island in the same period of time through the day? I don't know. I mean, is this all the knock-on effects of this already?
We'll find out. All right, Julian, good to hear from you. Thanks for talking to us today.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers.
12:25. Betty. Hello, Betty.
Hi, Andy. I agree that the government is wasting an opportunity by cancelling the buses to Cregnish. It's a big mistake. But I really rang to say that about the grants that the government gives to students when they go off island.
Yeah.
thought that maybe if there is a suitable job opportunity in the speciality that the students want on the island, the government should say, well, come and work here, otherwise, for 5 years, otherwise you'll have to pay your student grant back.
That's a bit draconian, Betty, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. They want people here. They want students here. And other places do similar sort of things. It doesn't seem... It won't be popular, I know, but if there's a job here that needs filling, it seems like a good idea to me.
Well, I mean... You're right that, obviously they get support for tuition fees. Manx families often have to pay not only travel to and from the Isle of Man, but also accommodation fees will be paid anyway. So they do run up a big, it's a whacking big bill for 3 or 4 years for that. So you reckon that would go? And to come back and work for 5 years, you reckon? Or maybe work later on for 5 years or what?
Well, maybe to work for 5 years, only if the job is suitable for them, you know.
Okay, all right. Appreciate it, Betty. Thanks for calling today.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, it's 27 minutes past. Mark's with us now. Hi, Mark.
Yeah, hi, Andy. I was just sort of reflecting this morning just on the state of the Isle of Man government. And there's obviously some excellent individuals in there as well, but it just seems to have reached a sort of a state of complacency in terms of things not moving forward. You know, there's loads of examples. Lord Street bus station, government, lots of government land not being released to the private sector, deals not being struck, ever increasing headcount. And I just think with the departure of the last CEO, I really hope the government gets it right on the appointment of the next CEO, because, I can't comment on the previous CEO's performance, but I was disappointed when they initially appointed him, just looking at his background, because he came from a UK civil servant background, and that brings with it a certain mentality, whether we like it or not. Yeah. And it would be really good if the new CEO has some private sector sort of background, I think, in terms of, you know, being able to look at cost-cutting measures, in terms of looking at department performance, and just having a sort of more of a commercial mentality.
Mark,
I know the interim. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, Mark, doesn't that? Forgive me for a horrible generalisation, but in the public sector, no budget is ever underspent, is it? I mean, the fact is, in the public sector, if you don't spend your budget, it often gets cut next year. Whereas in the private sector, as you say, cost-cutting and overhead containment is a byword. And sometimes it doesn't seem that way in the public sector.
No, absolutely. And I think that mentality and that culture, it sort of emanates top down. Unless you actually change the mentality at the top, nothing's going to change. So, you know, I think that the recruitment process, I think it should be as transparent as possible. And I think that, you know, if there's an interim CEO at the moment, isn't there, from the Department of Enterprise? I can't remember his name now. He has got a private sector background, I think, but if he does get the final job, and given his knowledge, he should be able to put a clear agenda, because he knows the government and he knows the civil servant, what needs to be done, about what he thinks can be what he can do in terms of reducing the spend. Because I think we're all, you know, this new tax NHS tax system that Dr. Allison's proposed. I mean, I think we're all just horrified, because the government keeps asking for more money, but we can't see them doing anything to actually get their costs under control. So I don't think anyone can evaluate and say, okay, I don't mind paying a 1 or 2%. I'm personally against it, but I might be more sort of amenable to considering it if I thought the government were getting the costs under control, and they're simply not. And the frustrating thing is that I think that there's the opportunities with regards to land, a lot of the government land not being released, and the department squabbling over it, and they might need it for future use in 5 or 10 years' time. And nothing being done. I mean, the Lord Street's been there for what? Is it 30 years?
Oh, for heaven! I mean, it's
just it's embarrassing, Andy. And I think fixing the top position and really giving them a clear agenda, or that person giving the Tynwald a clear agenda, what they're going to do, and a time frame in which they're going to do it, is going to be really important. Because otherwise, it's going to be the same sort of lackluster approach, and our tax money is going to be spent, without sort of control. So I think it's an opportunity. And when Andy got, no reflection on him, when he got appointed, I was just really disappointed when I saw his background. I thought, same old. And you're seeing it in other nation states as well, whereby we've got to reduce costs because we're living beyond our means at the moment.
Yeah. But I mean, we used to take a pride on the Isle of Man in being a low tax jurisdiction. It was something that we wore as a badge of honour, that the taxes were low on the Isle of Man, and at the moment we just seem to be imposing new taxes as though we're almost proud of them.
Andy, it's absolutely, and I think the mentality in Tynwald, from what I can see, has changed dramatically. I think there's a lack of business acumen in terms of you can only spend what you get in, and that just seems to have gone. We're living beyond our means. There's no sort of desire to actually make things happen. And I think there's I think most you meet people on the street, and I think the common sort of feeling about the civil service at the moment is doing nothing is the best option, because if you do something and you make a mistake, then your head's for the chopping board. So. I agree. I think the culture within Tynwald has changed. I hope the next election will change things in terms of new MHKs getting voted in. But again, I'm not optimistic about that either, because it just depends on the calibre of MHKs getting appointed. But also, I think that we're reaching a point where we, the general public, should have more say on key positions, because I think it will be at complete odds to what's happening in Tynwald, and having sort of referendums like they do in Switzerland on key decisions. I think that's probably the only way we're probably going to get control back and common sense being applied. I think I've called before about Kroger, which got kicked into long dust, and I'm sorry to raise it again, but I just find that whole process absolutely unforgivable. The government are asking us for more money when I think they basically did everything possible to prevent Kroger from happening, which would have delivered £2.8 billion to the Exchequer. And they're happy to deny that, but at the same time, they're asking us for more money, and it just makes no sense. And it's worrying. I think most people are worried about us constantly throwing money into this black hole, and with no, there doesn't seem to be anything on the horizon.
Okay.
In terms of a new business or new opportunity.
I appreciate your point, Mark. Thanks for calling today.
Cheers. Thanks, Andy. Take care. Bye-bye.
26 minutes now before 1 on Mannin Line.
Hi Liz, I see you've had your garage converted. We're desperate for more room.
Yes, come through and have a look. John called Manx Property Conversions. We now have an extra bedroom, but it could be another reception room, kids' playroom or office. They also did our conservatory roof last year. We were so impressed, we got them back to convert the garage.
Wow, I need that. What's their number again?
Call MPC on 450 500. That's 450 500. Or find them on Facebook at Manx Property Conversions.
Spectrum Windows. If your house needs a new look and your windows let in rain, keep those cold breezes out and make it look like new again. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Quality through and through. Great work guaranteed to you. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows.
Make Athol Airport Parking your wash and go partner when parking at the airport. With no advance booking required, simply park your car in the designated Athol rental return spaces right next to the terminal. Hand your key to our valet desk, and while you're away, we'll wash your vehicle and return your car to the terminal for when you get back. For prices and our full range of services, including comprehensive valeting menu, just search Athol Airport Parking online. Athol Airport Parking, part of the trusted Athol Garage Group.
Above deck or below, Harbour Marine Services has all your boating needs in one place. From engine sales and servicing to charts, books, dinghies and trailers, electronics, navigation, ropes, rigging and safety. Over 2,000 square feet of stock to help you stay safe on the water. Call 822 995 or find us on Facebook. For all your chandlery supplies, set your course to Harbour Marine Services, next to Castle Down Harbour.
Chris Pearson here. On Island Life this evening at 5:30, we join the Port St Mary lifeboat team for a joint helicopter exercise with the RAF.
We'll win 213, this is Port St Mary lifeboat, go ahead, over.
213, be with you in about 5 minutes. Is that you about 3 miles southwest of the lifeboat station?
The first transfer that we were doing was probably between 5 and 10 knots, and then we did the fast transfer at the end, 25 knots.
Island Life with the RNLI and RAF this evening at 5:30.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
23 minutes now before 1. It's the day after the bank holiday. It feels like a Monday. It's really a Tuesday. And if you love those bank holidays, we've got another one a week on Monday. And then some more after that, because TT's not too far away. And Mark's with us. Hi, Mark.
Andy, how you doing, fella?
Very well today. It's a lovely day, isn't it?
It's not bad at all, mate. Not bad at all. But you can tell it's the bank holidays over because it's lovely and sunny, can't you?
Yes.
Anyway, I was just ringing up to say I bet the burgers down south, the good people of the south, are more than impressed now that they voted Michelle Hayward in. I mean, come on, what is this woman's the point of her? You know, I mean, your previous caller was saying about the DOI's disastrous handling of the Kroger, and he's right. Her department put blockage after blockage after blockage in front of them, and with £3 billion or whatever it is, that's just not going to happen anymore. But I'm more interested in the modern stuff, the today stuff. 20 mile an hour, what a joke. Nobody's going to take a blind bit of notice of it. Plus, she has come up with no idea whatsoever on how to enforce it. But I think the shocking thing that I was listening to before and reading in the Manx paper was the fact that the DOI, of which she is the big boss woman, refused to engage with the people of, this, say, the Craignish bus service. Now, the Craignish is easily, I would say, the most important tourist attraction on this island. It's a living museum. And for her to turn around and say, nah, we're not going to put a bus on, that is just beyond scandalous, Andy. I'm sorry, but that woman needs to be sacked because that is just disgraceful. And there's no other word for it.
I mean, do you think do you think this is Michelle Hayward, or do you think it's the civil servants at the top of the DOI who are deciding this? Because this was all started. The idea about this started before she got the job.
Fair enough. If that's the case, I'll put my hand up and say I apologise. But if she's the head of the department, why is she not saying I don't agree with it? Why is she not turning around saying, well, actually, this seemed like a good idea at the time, but I'm going to review it? No, she's just rubber-stamped it all and gone, well, that's what's going to happen. It's just wrong. You said Visit Isle of Man have been rather quiet about all this stuff that's going on. Visit Isle of Man will not say a word about anything unless it benefits them. I am Visit Isle of Man's biggest critic because I really do not see the point of them. They just take vast amounts of money from the government and they provide no service whatsoever. I'm sorry, but they are bad.
It'd be interesting to know whether, if the civil servants at DOI or somebody could say, this is how much the service costs to go to Craignish and the Sound, and we're saving X amount of with X £1,000 per year by not having, because the bus is going to be around there anyway, so it instead of going to the Craignish and the Sound, it's obviously cutting that bit out. So how much have they saved by this? In terms of government spend, it's going to be minute, but as you say, Craignish is not just any lump of folk village. it's our folk village, and when you go to the Sound Cafe, you can see the Calf of Man. No other bus service takes you somewhere where you can see the Calf of Man, which arguably is one of the best views on the Isle of Man. You can't get there by public transport. Now, somebody somewhere has decided that, Mark, and it will be nice to know, A, how much we're saving, and B, is this temporary or permanent?
Yeah, Andy, I couldn't agree with you more, mate. You are spot on. And how many living museums are there in the UK? I mean, I can think of Beamish, that's one. And these places get hundreds and hundreds of thousands of visitors every single year. And we are basically saying to anyone that comes to the Isle of Man, the DOI are saying to anyone that comes to the Isle of Man, oh yeah, we've got this most fantastic living museum. It's a real throwback to the 18th and 19th century, but you can't get to it. I mean, why can't they put a little sprinter bus, at the bottom of the hill by the railway station there, and go every hour on the hour and say 6 o'clock, that's us finished? Why can't they do that?
And in the north of the island, they have the dialer bus as well, where if you need a bus,
exactly,
you can basically have a public service, a public vehicle transport to go somewhere. So, one would argue that Cregneash and the Sound is one of, in terms of rankability, it's one of the top attractions on the Isle of Man. And saying to people, if you come over here, we'll make your own way there, that's not very welcoming.
No, and I would argue as well that these little sprinter buses you see flying around Douglas with 2 drivers and nobody in the back are costing a heck of a lot more to keep on the road per day than a Cregneash bus would do. And anyway, just one more thing, Andy, and this is just a little moan on my behalf, not at you, but at Manx Radio. Can somebody at Manx Radio please tell me why you're advertising a Guernsey Bank for savings when you're not advertising anything on the... See, what you're doing is you're encouraging people with £100,000 plus burning a hole in their pocket to take that money to another jurisdiction. Can somebody at Manx Radio please say why that you're allowed that advert on the radio?
I'll pass that on. Okay.
Good man. Have a good day, Andy.
Cheers now. Thank you. Local authorities in the south of the Isle of Man would have been willing to make a financial contribution to keep the buses going to Cregneash and the Sound. The Clerk of Arbury and Rushen Parish Commissioners says it's deeply disappointing that the number 28 service has been permanently withdrawn. DOI announced last year the route would no longer be running as it wasn't financially viable. The Clerk of Arbury and Rushen Parish Commissioners happens to be our political correspondent, former MHK, Phil Gaughan.
What the Arbury and Rushen Parish Commissioners asked the RTLC to do was to delay consideration while the department hopefully would speak with affected parties, potential supporters such as the local authorities, and to see whether a solution could be found. But of course what's happened is the RTLC, I think it was on Thursday, sent a message to the commissioners to say, well, actually we have discovered that we can't require the department to continue to operate the service. Well, it wasn't quite what we'd asked for, but certainly the fact that they've spent possibly 3 months now considering the matter and getting legal advice has given the department the time necessary to actually have the proper discussions with the affected parties.
And the issue was, according to the Department of Infrastructure, was that the route wasn't financially viable, but you're saying the commissioners had some proposition towards that, didn't they?
Well, yes, and of course I say that the department has had time, thanks to this delay, to talk to the affected parties, but it hasn't actually done that. So Arbury and Rushen Parish Commissioners had agreed to consider, at the very least, putting some money in to try to keep the service operating. I know a similar conversation had been had, certainly with some Port St Mary commissioners, whether they'd reached a formal position one way or the other on that, I'm not certain. But there was a degree of support potentially available had the department actually been bothered enough to have a conversation with us. But they hadn't even done that, which does seem quite surprising.
Phil Gaughan talking in his capacity as Clerk of Arbury and Rushen Parish Commissioners. Any thoughts from you about what this means? Well, let's face it. the majority of residents of the Isle of Man don't go to the Sound or Cregneash on a regular basis. It's like most people on the Isle of Man don't use the horse trams. Most people don't go on the electric railway or the steam railway. But we pay for them, we contribute towards them, and they make up part of the Isle of Man. So, are these priorities aligning with what you think should be happening on the Isle of Man? Getting rid of this service to Cregneash and the Sound means no public transport there. So anyone getting off the boat, anyone reading in the Visit Isle of Man brochure about the Cregneash and the Sound, or Manx National Heritage obviously operate the folk village. We haven't heard from Manx National Heritage, and we've not heard much from Visit Isle of Man about this.
EVF, fueling the island and fueling you. With a great range of fresh foods and everyday essentials at our filling stations. And always great offers too. Ellen Mannin Fuels.
Enjoy a stress-free, collaborative and successful building project with construction experts Matthew James Limited. First, we take the time to discuss your requirements and assess your site. Then, we'll design and produce plans to bring your vision to life. We'll oversee planning, and when ready, our team will construct to the highest standards. In short, Matthew James are there for you every step of the way, until completion and even beyond. Dream, develop, deliver. MatthewJames.im.
Blowing a hoolie out there.
Come in for a bravig by the fire. Just stocked up at Hearth. Never been so warm.
Who's that? Hearth?
Aye, they've got kiln-dried hardwood for me log burner, Colombian coal and smokeless ovals for the open fire, kindling and firelighters all delivered. Great value too.
All goes up the chimney anyway, so I pay more. I'll be giving Hearth a call.
Check their website as well. Just order and they deliver.
For all your fire fuel needs, call Hearth on 560 577 or visit hearth.co.com.
Behind the doors of village halls everywhere lies the beating heart of rural life, the Women's Institute, the WI. In 1999, 6 friends set out to raise money to buy a sofa for the relatives' room in their local hospital. And ended up making history. Stage Door Entertainment presents Gary Barlow and Tim Firth's Calendar Girls the Musical from the 29th to the 31st of May at the Gaiety Theatre. All proceeds to the Big Manx Community Charity in association with Manx Radio.
Get the full story. Tune in to Manx Radio's newscast for in-depth interviews behind the headlines. Find the newscast now at manxradio.com or your usual podcast provider.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Jeffrey said, Andy, I live in Balacob. There's been a bungalow here empty for over 7 years. We should have a league table, shouldn't we? Longest unoccupied building on the Isle of Man, residential building. I live in Peel, and as there's an election this week, I've only seen one candidate at my door. I wish them the very best. They're the only one who's actually bothered to come and see me. I wonder why that is. 807. I'm sure they'll be round to your door now. Housing stock, new department, more wasted money to not achieve anything, says 382. Oh, such cynicism in one so young. Howard's with us now. Hi, Howard.
Hiya, Andy. Just listening to both marks there, they're both quite right in what they're saying. And with the DOI and bus vanning, etc., I think what we're looking at here is silo thinking, that I'm going to run the buses and you're not going to have a say in it. And they've decided, and there's very little will change their minds now, even if it's a necessary item, like going through in the summer months. I'm not saying do it in the middle of the winter, anybody like that. But when there's a need for it, with people coming to the island, they can have a regular pattern, because they could either start at the Port Eyre railway station or down by the Albert down there, where there's 2 bus stops with shelters, and then all they have to do is go up on the back road going up through, as we used to do with the coaches. And this is another one where the bus vanning destroyed the coach industry and tried their best to do it to the taxi services by taking all the routes that coaches would use and everything, and run them virtually down to the ground. And now they have an overall dictatorship on what does, when, and why. And I think each minister that's come into there, into DOI, has always had the same train of thought. So this is coming from the silo thinking within the civil service, and I've known it where one lot is not speaking to another. I've known the fact that they've been sitting in an office and they've sent each other emails, and they're virtually at the same desk, and they'll wait until an email comes back. And that's about the mentality of our service, civil service, in lots of cases. And this is what's happening down there, because there's no other means of doing it. And could you imagine Land's End or Christ or Beamish, anywhere like that, doing exactly the same sort of tricks, where they're not accommodating people that want to see these places? And I think when the visiting coaches come over here, and they're here regular, they only go down there twice a week. Now, there's nobody in that cafe, etc. If they have a number of people going down, a couple of 3 coaches a week, but nobody can run a business on that side of it. So what are these people in government trying to do? Destroy. Because the first Mark was saying about how the government, Treasury, etc., are tax and spend. They're spending all the money they can get in, and this is why I said the other day about they're wanting to get the steam packet on the statute books, because that's a nice little honeypot for them to have a dive into. Because the steam packet know how to run the company. Might not everybody's idea of goodness, but they know how to run a company, and if the government got their hands in, we'd have exactly what we've got now with the, we can't afford to go today, we haven't got enough diesel, Fred is off sick, so we can't do this. But that place down there, the Craignish, and well, I can remember I used to have the little wooden hut down there. We used to go and get the crab sandwiches. Delicious. But now there's I don't know who built it. It was government anyway. The cafe, restaurant, etc.
Yeah.
They've had quite a number of people down there running this place, and I don't know how on earth they make a living. But to get a small bus, and they got a 20 or 30 sprinter buses sitting down there during the day, they could put one on for a few hours, just based in either Port Eyre and Port St Mary, where they could do a short run, and it is only a short run, down to Craignish, and then down to the Sound, turn round and come back.
It would just be, Howard, it would be nice to know some figures. How much has been saved by this? How many passengers did they accommodate this year, last year, the year before? They'll have the figures, they'll know, they'll be able to tell us which months are most important to them, what time of day is most important to them. They'll have all this. Why not just make it public and give us a compelling case for why they're saving public money? Otherwise, people will make their own minds up, Howard.
Have you ever heard of a compelling case truthfully coming out of government in the last 10 years? I wouldn't hold my breath on it.
Okay.
Saying we got that tax and spend. They borrowed 400 million, and the Treasury Minister will come out, well, it's at a favourable rate, but it's still a loan. There was 170 million wasted on paying for various aspects of the power station down here and overspend. You're talking near £500 million there that they take quite easily. It's only £500 million. Stick another 2 pence on the tax. But I don't know, they don't seem to want to think outside that little box of an office. And there's, what's her name, Haywood. She's talking about it hasn't been dredged for 5 years, the harbour. That's another disgrace. That we dredges back down there again, been working all over the weekend, and they still say it's going to have a proper dredging. Yeah. And this is all DOI, the Department of Individuals, and that's what they are. They're individual thinking. There's nothing collective about them.
Okay.
They're not talking to each other.
Appreciate it.
But, the likes of that... what they say was, I think they're only talking tens of thousands that it was costing. They've just brought it was in the paper or on your website, 21,000 the bosses of the bus Mannin used just to go for trips across to the UK. 21,000. That was their expenses and going to various places, exhibitions. But they're talking about this where it's not only cost a few bob, but it's earning money. So let the DOI, let's get rid of some of them in there, move them on to pastures new, and we can tell them, because no matter how many ministers you have, the same people are going to put the same ideas forward and push them forward all the time.
All right. Thanks for calling, Howard.
Take care. Bye.
Just a quick word about this coming Thursday. It's the final public event for Daniel's Law, the Human Tissue and Organ Donation Act known as Daniel's Law. A complex, sensitive subject. Once implemented, adults over 18 who haven't opted out, not in an excluded group, will be considered as organ donors. Now, the Western Wellbeing Centre this Thursday the 24th, 2 sessions, 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock. You can meet the people involved. They'll talk about the regulatory framework for human tissue on the Isle of Man. If you want to find out more, that's this Thursday, 4 and 6 o'clock, 2 sessions at the Western Wellbeing Centre in Peel. That's it. Lots of messages which we'll get to tomorrow. Thanks to Chris on the phones today. It's a lovely day. Hope you make the most of it. Take care.
WINT